Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the Market Monday, brought to you on a Tuesday. Apologize for not having a video out yesterday. My laptop decided to act up, lost the screen, couldn't get the screen turned back on, went through about 50 pages of technical support of what it could be, anything from the GPU to faulty BioWare to just every hardware issue in the entire book, went through a bunch of troubleshooting, and then finally found a YouTube video that it's probably just loose RAM, tapped on the RAM, and sure enough, it popped right up. So 5 hours wasted today trying to do a loose RAM problem. So that's where I was, and now we're finally getting a video out today. So anyway, we're going to talk about Modern Horizons booster boxes and what their quote-unquote MSRP is. So we do have some information released. Actually, information was not released. We had to find this out through trying to gauge what the distributors are selling them at. So the distributors I use do have prices up now for Modern Horizons, and I can do a little bit of deductive reasoning here of trying to figure out where their price that they get it right from Wizards is, and then how that reflects on how the local game stores are going to get it. So I have different levels that are usually based off MSRP through different distributors, whether it be 42%, 45%, one of them I have all the way up to 47%, and then the prices are pretty much reflected there for how much they're offering to sell me the Modern Horizons. So without further ado, the Modern Horizons booster packs or booster box, which is going to contain 36 booster packs, is going to have about an MSRP of $7. So again, there is no such thing as MSRP because Wizards is not publicly releasing any of that information. But what an MSRP usually was based upon the cost of goods, and then, of course, the distributors then mark it up because they have to make a profit, and then the local game stores also need to mark it up to make a profit based upon what they bought it at. So MSRP hasn't really mattered any long time. The only time that MSRP matters in our lovely little game we call Magic the Gathering is when people whine incessantly when something goes over MSRP. So, for example, when we had shortages in Commander 2017, and the local game stores jacked up the price, and same thing with online sellers, to meet the demand. So instead of selling it at MSRP, then they were called greedy. But the times when the prices have been historically, I would say for 99% of all Magic the Gathering products, while they're still in stock, or you can still order them directly through distributors, have been vastly under MSRP. So with that, all that in mind, that's how I came up with, it hasn't mattered in the past, but if they were going to put an MSRP on a booster box of Modern Horizons, it is going to be about $7 a pack or $250 per box. So this is the most expensive 36-pack booster box that has come out yet. So they are trying to anticipate there's going to be a lot of demand for this. There is a lot of this is actually quite ambitious in my opinion, because on two different modes here. First of all, the Modern Masters and Eternal Masters, Ultimate Masters, they all were considered premium sets, which contained a lot of reprint equity, which I'm having a hard time with the Modern Horizons being able to deliver with reprint equity. I'm thinking they're going to come into the same sort of problems they had with Commander 2018. Commander 2018 was very different from the previous 2 years of Commander sets, where they tried to have the focal point on new cards rather than on reprinted cards in those box sets, and unfortunately they fell very, very flat, and the box EV, or just not just the EV, the actual value that you get of the Commander sets was a lot lower than the previous years, and that led to very poor sales. And it was mainly due that there wasn't any what we call reprint equity that was put in the Commander 2018. So that's the first issue I have with Modern Horizons. The second issue is they're basing this pack price on 36 booster per box rather than on something that was 24. So the supply is not only much greater because it comes in 36s at $7 a piece rather than 24s at originally $7 a piece from what Modern Masters 1, and then they went up to $9.99. But I mean, $7 to $9.99 isn't that big of a jump, but it is when you are containing 36 packs rather than 24. So the supply is a lot greater, meaning that just from that aspect, there's going to be more cards that enter into the secondary market. So it's going to be a lot harder for a non-limited print run set to be able to hold its set EV. So there's a lot of disasters that are waiting to happen for Modern Horizons. I personally think that these things aren't even going to sell at anywhere near that MSRP. Traditional markups for products are about 50% when you go from the second hand to the third hand. So meaning that distributors, they'll put just a very, very slight markup of what they get it from Wizards of the Coast because they are selling in huge quantities and they just want to move that product. Whereas game stores with high overhead, they need to get a very healthy markup of what I would say is between 40 and 50%. And so usually that's how an MSRP is come to, is Wizards will set a price of cost of goods and then they'll try to anticipate how much that each one of the steps will need to be able to be profitable. And that's where, of course, MSRP was derived. However, without MSRP, without keeping that in check, I think that this has the chance to bottom out a lot sooner. I also have my suspicions that Wizards got rid of MSRP so that they can also be very competitive in the outlets that they sell. And Wizards of the Coast denied to us that they sell on Amazon, which in fact they do sell on Amazon. Maybe they don't directly sell on Amazon, but they are using Amazon as they would any other thing like Walmart or any other outlet is buying products directly from them and they're deciding where to sell at. And I think that's one of the reasons why they got rid of MSRP, because they know Amazon is not going to even try to come close to it and they're going to try to sell at market value. And we've seen sets on Amazon such as Core 2019 go for, what is it, all the way down to $80 a booster box, I believe is how much I've seen Core 2019, which is cheaper than what I can currently get them from the distributors. So I'm thinking with Wizards announcing that direct-to-consumer website that they will be selling on, they'll be trying at the 250 mark, but as soon as the market adjusts, that they're just going to try to bust out as many of these booster boxes directly to consumer as possible. And that's going to cause a chain reaction. And then, of course, people are going to have to undercut Wizards and Sports and More and Massdrop and Amazon. And it's going to lead to a free fall in this product unless it can deliver a lot of repoint equity and a lot of new cards that people have to put in Modern. And that's the big issue with this product. It could really change a format that is considered to be incredibly healthy, meaning there's a lot of different decks that people can play in Modern, and it's led to a very robust market because nothing has been able to stay on top of the Modern meta for very long before it gets kind of kicked down. It has a little bit of a self-regulating format. Now, personally, I don't like the format. I haven't liked Modern in years because I think that it is too degenerative of a format. There are too many non-games played. What I mean by that is too many games are decided by just crazy combos or cards that shut down those crazy combos. So the hate cards and the combo cards are a really defining aspect of Modern. Some people enjoy that. I personally don't. However, there have been, throughout the last 2 years, 3 years, it's been a very, very healthy meta with having, I would say, 50 plus decks that are viable at any given time to actually play and be competitive with. If they want to push a product that is going to push through cards that are powerful enough for this format we call Modern, then it might end up actually warping Modern. And so the only way I think that they can achieve that Modern Horizons sells at a extremely high level without having the reprint equity of the fetch lands is to print very, very powerful cards. So in my opinion, it's going to create a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. And that's very concerning about the Modern format in whole. So Modern prices have been going up with the announcement of the Modern Horizons. We have, if we come over here to the movers and shakers, on Modern from MTG Goldfish, you can see that the fetch lands are definitely on the rise. We have Misty Rainforest going up. The day before, we had Scalding Tarn going up. We even have like Wooded Foothills. A lot of these cards that we know are just used throughout a variety of different decks. There's also cards too that are starting to go up that are probably not going to be pushed out by anything that's printed. Cards like Ugin, cards like Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger are starting to go up, and other cards, City of Brass, we see. This is a definite trend for Modern. The cards across the entire Modern are going to go up indefinitely because there is a known metric here. There is not going to be reprinted cards in Modern Horizons. So anyway, that's a very interesting thing we'll have to talk about and look at as cards are spoiled about what cards will continue to go up. But I think it's a pretty safe bet right now to just across the board invest in the Modern format. The best way to do that, of course, is to go over here to formats and staples in Modern. You can kind of get a gist of what sees play in multiple different decks, or you can simply come over here to the meta and kind of follow along with the meta of what decks see a lot of play currently in Modern. And again, this is, though, kind of awkward. We don't know the power structure of the Modern Horizons, that it could just completely mess up the meta of Modern, and this sort of data could be obsolete. So there's a little bit of warning there. So anyway, not much else to talk about Modern Horizons. I would just be very, very careful with that, but you do have time just to invest across the board and then sell out of Modern before, or you can even wait after a few weeks after Modern Horizons does start to impact the meta. However, again, from a standpoint of a player, this is very, very concerning about the format going forward. Modern has been a very safe place to park money in these decks, especially when a new card comes out. And actually, what I've really enjoyed with Modern is when a deck comes, the new flavor of the week pushes out a deck, and then it will come back in favor just when it starts to shift. There have been so many times that I've invested in, like, say, Living End. What's the card? The Restore Balance. That is a card that I have flipped so many times because it will hit a deck, and I'll hurry and buy them and sell them after that deck, and then that deck will go obsolete for a while, and then it will come back, and then I'll sell it, and then it'll come back, and I'll sell it. Same thing with Platinum Imperium. I did that a lot with, like, multiple buyings and sellings of these, and it's been quite fun with Modern because it has been that sort of self-regulating format that a deck will come into dominance and then come out just as quickly and rinse and repeat. You can see that Humans, which was the #1 deck not too long ago, is all the way down into what, 7th place here? 8th place here? According to the percentage breakdowns. But this is a very healthy format when 6% is the highest of the meta share. That means that there are plenty of viable decks at that rate. So anyway, again, Modern is a whole can of worms right now with the Modern Horizons, which I don't think that this was a good idea. Like, a lot of people are saying this might be the best thing that ever happened to Magic and stuff, but it's one of those things, if it's not broke, don't try to fix it, in my opinion. And I would have liked to see a set that just reprinted Modern cards and slowly got a few cards into the Modern legality, rather than try to shift it up through one big massive set with what, 255 cards? How many cards is in this one, did they say? So I thought they did have the list. I'll have to figure it out here, but it's quite a bit of cards. So next up, I want to talk about, this was touched on by the Rudy with the strong Q1 of Magic the Gathering sealed product sales. And I've also experienced this. I do run a Patreon very similar to what Rudy does. If you are a patron of mine or Subscribestar, or just I can set up a recurring payment through PayPal, that I will order on behalf of you product from the different outlets that I have to get cheap Magic product. And collectively, we have a better bargaining, purchasing power. Like if you buy things in case lots rather than in, or how Rudy does, in pallets, you get a much better deal than if you're to try to order it individually. So that's something that we do over at my Patreon. Is just for a monthly subscription, I allow you to order a certain amount of products per month, and I've saved many people thousands of dollars by doing so. But anyway, so why I know that there's been a lot of big uptick is I've seen a huge uptick in my patrons ordering from me, or I've seen a huge uptick from other people wanting sealed product. And I think that 2019, at least Q1, is really starting to make up for dismal 2017 and 2018. If we look over here at Dawnglare. Dawnglare is a very, very good resource. It shows you the TCG mid / TCG low box EV, which is expected value you'll be able to get from a box. And you can kind of see where the market is trending. And many of these things, like if we come over here, especially the one I've been following, the Ultimate Masters or Masters 25, look at that trajectory. That is going up very, very quickly. Just a month ago, it was 165, and is now, box EV has gone to 175. When that happened, Masters 25 completely was bought out. It's empty from all distributors. You cannot find this directly from Wizards anymore. It is pretty much out of stock now. You have to get this from other sites. I think Card Kingdom bumped it up to 195. Cool Stuff has bumped it up as well. And this is going to the 200s very, very soon. The same can be said for Iconic Masters. Personally, I can still get a few Iconic Masters. This is a set that used to have lots and lots. Every distributor was full to the brim of these, and now Iconic Masters is also becoming very, very scarce. at the distribution level. So if you are a patron and listening to this video, you should order your Iconic Masters sooner rather than later. Do not wait to get this Iconic Masters. It will be out of stock shortly, within a month, in my opinion. However, you can see this trajectory is showing a lot of movement in both singles and in sealed booster box prices. Across the board, we've seen this with even sets that don't even make sense to purchase them EV. Wise, things like the Ixalan, both rivals of Ixalan or excuse me, not Ixalan, just Kaladesh, both Kaladesh and Aether Revolt are completely out of stock, and they don't have the EV to justify these being out of stock with a pitiful $36 TCG mid or $58 with Aether Revolt. But you can see these two are, Kaladesh isn't really trending up, but Aether Revolt definitely is starting to trend up. And that is very, very strong for a set that just rotated. Usually I give it a good 18 months when a set is rotated before it even starts to show any sort of movement. Eldritch Moon is completely out of stock. It's hard to find these. It actually is trending slightly down due mainly to reprints lately in like Ultimate Masters and whatnot. And then Shadow of Innistrad is actually starting to slightly trend up. Shadow of Innistrad is still available, but I think that these are going to be eaten up. We still have sets from what I like to call Magic 2.0, where they printed things into oblivion, but even those are starting to be purchased. It's hard to find Battle for Zendikar boxes. Still okay to find Oath of the Gatewatch, still okay to find Fate Reforged, but those prices have also started to move up comparatively when they were in January and December. Same thing with Dragonstar Cure and Origins. Those were two booster boxes that were quite easy for me to find, and those prices are starting to go up. And we can even go back to Theros, Born of the Gods, and Journey into Nyx, which those are becoming more and more scarce. Same thing with the Return to Ravnica and Gatecrash. What's very interesting is Gatecrash is one of the booster boxes is quite easy to find at a discount, and actually has one of the higher set EVs comparatively across the board with the Magic 2.0 sets. So very, very interesting with sealed product. With the huge influx of new players, all bets are off. What I mean by that is the thing that used to be true for a lot of advice that I gave, say, a year ago is no longer relevant. You have to stay loose on your feet for sure with Magic the Gathering Finance, because when I gave advice a year or 2 years ago, that was analyzing the market of a stagnant market. We are not in a stagnant market right now. We are not in a stagnant player base. We have a player base that is absolutely increasing. So at this point, sealed products, even from Magic 2.0, look to be a pretty good investment. Personally, I've been picking up like cheap Journey and Nyx boxes, cheap Gatecrash boxes. One that I really like is Oath of the Gatewatch, because Oath of the Gatewatch can still be had at around $80 a box. It's quite easy to find those. I know Cool Stuff has them for $85, for example, and it's quite easy to get your hands on Oath of the Gatewatch. These things have a low expected EV, but there are some good cards in Oath of the Gatewatch that have some eternal playability, legacy, a lot of Eldrazi. I mean, almost that Eldrazi deck is all from Oath of the Gatewatch. So again, if you are looking for sealed to park money at sealed, I prefer singles. I know that's a huge difference between me and Rudy. Rudy likes the safe route of investing in sealed product. I've always been a singles will always outperform sealed product if you're smart about it. And I know that we argue about liquidity a lot with singles, but I have no problem buy listing even at a higher price, way higher price than what I get with trying to buy boxes at distribution price and then sell them a couple years later with the eBay fees and things like that. So it's just a different stance on where to park your money. I still am a singles person. I understand reprints can kill your value, and this is the safer way to invest in, but there might be a day when Magic the Gathering pulls a Pokemon and just, oh, look at this, we want Constant Cure just to be reprinted. So it's not going to be standard legal, but there's enough demand for it. Let's just reprint some Constant Cure, and that's that. I don't think there's any sort of policy on Wizards not to reprint full sets. Someone was talking about like eBay prices of like Shadowmoors all the way up to $800. Well, that'd make an easy sale for Wizards to say, hey, let's release 1,000 cases of Shadowmoor and see how it sells, and they do, and of course that could just dumb down the value just as easily as a card. I think that's the next step that we are going to find in Wizards of the Coast when they try to get some equity out of stuff. So anyway, be very careful with that, but I do think this is a pretty good place to park your money at the moment, because a more influx of players is going to lead to people that are new to the game being like, hey, I've never cracked a Fate Reforged booster box. Let's go ahead and crack a Fate Reforged booster box. And so, yep, they do. So anyway, I've seen, just like Rudy, I have seen that go up in, these ones go up in value. There are still some good investments, in my opinion, that are starting to go back up. Look at this subjective reality from Commander 2018, having a value of $50 on TSG mid and 45, 46, 34. Not too long ago, I wish I had some price history here on Dongler for these ones. These were a lot lower. So these ones do seem to be trajecting up. Apparently, you can still find these on clearance racks and all the Targets and GameStops and whatnot that still have these type of things in stock. The distributors are still chock full of Commander 2018, but it still is a very limited print run. I don't think they did another print run of Commander 2018 because of how dismal it was. And so there's probably less Commander 2018 in existence than Commander 2017. And you can see the Commander 2017, look at this Vampiric Bloodlust. This sucker's up to 124, 125 almost. This Commander 2017 was a little bit of a letdown for people. Well, everyone, when they were comparing it to Commander 2016, everyone thought it was just strictly worse than the ones that came out in Commander 2016. There was 4 decks rather than 5 decks. I think, did they increase the price of it? I can't remember if they did or not. I know they did with Commander 2018, and people were like, the value's not there comparatively. But now look at this. If you put the Vampiric Bloodlust up against the Commander 2016, it would be third right now and not too far behind the Stalwart Unity or the Entropic Uprising. So keep that in mind. With that's how quickly Commander 2017 went up, and that is Magic 2.0 as well. This sucker, Commander 2017, didn't have the problem of Commander 2016. What happened with Commander 2016 is they did the initial printing of it, and they said they were going to reprint it, and then they decided not to. And so there was a lot less Commander 2016 than Commander 2017. Commander 2017 did have that initial print to demand. They printed it and printed it until sales began to dwindle, and then they cut it off. And as soon as they cut it off, it looks like these have gone through the roof. So that would have been a great investment. So in a year, you might look at Commander 2018 and say, whoa, we thought this was Commander 2017 that would be stagnant for a year or 2 years. And lo and behold, it's actually gone up. These products seem to really, really accrue in value quite quickly. So keep that in mind. Anyway, that's enough about Dongler right here. This, of course, is a website you should have bookmarked, and you should definitely look at from time to time for the set EVs. Last but not least, I do want to talk about just the overall market for Standard. You should be selling cards right now from Standard, if anything from Ixalan to Core 2019. Personally, I buy listed everything. There's not enough time for this to accrue value, and we have the Challenger decks that are coming out. We also have a new set coming out with War of the Sparks that has led to a lot of cards with the Mox Amber. A lot of people have asked me about Mox Amber, whether or not it's a good spec. I think it will continue to go up just based upon the hype. Once the train hype is got going, the hype is very, very real, and the Mox Amber is probably going to continue to follow this until we get some very, very conclusive spoilers. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be uncommons or rare Planeswalkers. There are rumors circulating that there's going to be 1 promo Planeswalker per pre-release pack, which makes me think it's going to be very similar to Dominaria with the printing of uncommon legends. We're probably going to see the printing of uncommon and rare Planeswalkers, because there will be 36 Planeswalkers contained in War of the Spark. So, of course, there just is not enough room in the rare slots or mythic slots and rare slots to probably contain that amount of Planeswalkers. So we're going to see uncommons as well with the walkers. So people are really thinking that Mox Amber is going to get some 1s and 2 converted mana cost Planeswalkers, maybe on the power level of Tibalt, but nonetheless a way to ramp out stuff with the Mox Amber. I highly, highly, highly warn, after this bubble happens, this bubble will probably burst regardless if there are some very juicy spoilers, because Mox Amber already has the legendary outlet and it really hasn't gone anywhere. There's a lot of cards in Modern that can utilize Mox Amber. There was some play initially when it was first out in Modern with like Isumaru and some of these aggressive decks with Mox Amber. I'm thinking it was like Isumaru and then some sort of, what was it, the SRAM with equipments? Maybe I could be wrong with what deck it actually saw play with. And again, initially did okay, but has just continued to go down because it just didn't see enough play, and of course fell very flat in Standard. So this card continues to go up, and I think that this will hit probably, I would say, 22 to 26 is where I think it will settle. But when this this hype train finally comes to a close. And again, might pop up and down that first week or 2 weeks when we will indefinitely see 5-0 finishes. But a 5-0 finish doesn't mean anything in the scope of things. If it can't replicate for weeks to come, or if no major tournament is able to replicate that, then of course it will just fall off. So that's my warning about Mox Amber. It still probably is investable at 16. Of course, yeah, I'd rather get in on it at around the $7 mark rather than this. You could have a slight increase, but you need to, in my opinion, pull the trigger very quickly on Mox Amber, because it's just something that doesn't have a long time before rotation happens and has already proven that it is not modern worthy. So keep that in mind with this card. I do expect this to be broken in some point in Magic the Gathering, but I think that the time period of when this goes back down to $8 will be more likely than it being broken in like a modern or legacy or vintage for it to go up more in value. So anyway, that's sort of the questions. If you ever have questions for me to address on Market Monday, you can definitely email me. Sometimes I do reserve lists for patrons. You definitely get priority if you are a patron for specific market advice. You know, my time is money. My expertise is money. So if you want a specific question directed at me to get my full attention, of course, that's probably the route to go. Anyway, that's all we got for this week's Market Monday on a Tuesday. I'll get back to hopefully on regular schedule, whatever that means at this point, on the Rogue Deck Builder. And I will have a more of analysis over at the Rogue Market. I'm going to do a special video today about my number one spec. The card, there's two cards that I've been going all in on. One of them is a very, very risky spec because it's Pauper. And the other one is the safest spec in the entire world, except for the slight possibility that it could get reprinted because it's got a very, very easy name and no mechanics attached to it. But if you want to hear that card, definitely come over to the Rogue Market channel, YouTube. I don't think it's YouTube/Rogue Market yet because I haven't earned that yet. I'll have to figure out when you get your channel name. I can't remember. It's been so long since I was able to get the Rogue Market that I don't know what it is for a relatively new channel. However, come over in the links in the description to the Rogue Market and you can see that spec. We also will be having a competition over at the Rogue Market. It's a $2,000 fantasy portfolio that will probably be out tomorrow. The deadline that you can have entries in by is, you probably want them in by the end of the month, but we'll be crowning a winner on June 1st. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick $2,000 worth of cards, no more than 4 of any version of a card. So you can pick the same card multiple times, but it has to have different versions like foils and whatnot. And you make a portfolio of $2,000. And the person whose portfolio is worth the most on June 1st is going to be crowned the winner. So I think we might allow people to quote unquote cash out. So if they want to freeze their portfolio, they can say, okay, well, I made my portfolio worth $3,100. I'm currently in first place. I think the likelihood of it going down is going to occur, so I'm going to freeze it right here. We might allow that to happen. So look forward in those that post or that video for the details with that. It's just a fun little competition. You get to win my ad revenue from 0 subscribers to 2,000 subscribers, which was like a whopping $85. So instead, we're giving out a box of Battle Bond to the wiener. So anyway, be looking for that. Register. We'll have more details on how to do that in an upcoming video. Anyway, this has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder for the Market Monday. Thanks for watching.